On July 6, 1907, the seat of British authority in Ireland wakes up to a problem it cannot polish away. The Irish crown jewels are missing from Dublin Castle, and the first reaction is disbelief. Disbelief is easier than admitting the impossible happened in a building designed to prevent it. These were not a king's crown in the fairy tale sense. They were the jeweled star, badge, and collars of the Order of St. Patrick. Ceremonial regalia tied to the Lord Lieutenant of Ireland as Grand Master, expensive, symbolic, and politically loaded. The detail that turns this from a theft into a legend is simple. The strongbox was locked, and the lock was not forced. Whatever happened, happened with access, patience, or both. The jewels were housed in the Bedford Tower area at Dublin Castle in the Office of Arms, the administrative space responsible for heraldry and for safeguarding state regalia. The custodian is Sir Arthur Vickers, the Ulster King of Arms, a man whose job was literally to guard symbols. Security on paper looked reassuring. Multiple doors, a strong room, a safe, keys, procedures, but the fatal weakness in most historic heists is never the metal. It is the human holding the key. The official account notes 7 keys to the building and 2 keys to the safe, both in Vickers' keeping. The jewels were last seen on June 11th, before being discovered missing on July 6th. That is a wide window for a thief with time between June 11th and July 6th. The story isn't just the jewels were taken. The story is that the castle kept giving warning signs in small, dismissible ways, the kind that feel harmless until they become evidence. A building like Dublin Castle is supposed to feel airtight, not because it's perfect, but because it runs on routine. Doors closed, keys accounted for, rooms checked, a chain of normal that makes theft feel impossible. But records describe doors being found open when they should have been secured, not smashed, not forced, just open. Like someone walked through and decided the rules didn't apply to them. An open door is a small event until you treat it like the first line of a confession. Because an open door inside a controlled building means either carelessness or permission. Then there are reports of a cleaner seeing a man in the area who didn't belong there. Again, not a gunman, not a masked intruder, just a presence that shouldn't fit the schedule. And the most dangerous suspects in places like this don't look like suspects. They look like staff, like visitors, like someone who can move through authority without triggering it. When you're guarding something symbolic, your first enemy isn't violence. It's familiarity. It's the belief that the threat would announce itself. The castle's defenses were layered, but layered systems fail in the same way every time, not all at once. One layer fails quietly, and everyone assumes the other layers will compensate. Some accounts mention that parts were left behind, like a ribbon and a clasp, suggesting whoever did this might have handled the regalia directly in the room, unhurried enough to leave fragments like punctuation. If that detail is true, it implies time inside the scene, not seconds, minutes. The kind of minutes you only get when you're not afraid of being interrupted. And that's where the case starts to change shape. Because a thief who expects to be caught works fast, but a thief who expects to be safe works clean. The official account emphasizes key access and custody. And once keys become central, the mystery tightens into a single hard truth. A lock doesn't need to be forced if the lock is obeying the person holding the key. So imagine the days before discovery as a slow tightening, doors not quite right, sightings not quite explained, moments brushed off because brushing them off keeps the world stable. And then comes July 6th, the day the story stops being a rumor and becomes an empty space inside a box. That emptiness is what makes people reach for the most dangerous word in any unsolved theft: inside job. Because when something vanishes from the center of power, the first suspicion is that power opened the door for it. And once that word is spoken, it never fully leaves the room again. The timing matters because this was not a quiet month. The jewels were expected to be used for ceremony, and the theft was discovered shortly before a royal visit with an investiture planned. The building was guarded, watched, alive, with official routine, and that makes the theft feel like an insult. When an item like this disappears, the question is not only who wanted money, the question is who wanted embarrassment, leverage, or silence. Because a jewel is portable wealth, but it is also a portable scandal. Parliament talked about it. Rumors moved faster than evidence. People asked whether the jewels had been traced, recovered, or redeemed. And officials answered with the kind of careful language that never satisfies a crowd. This is the part where the heist stops looking like a smash and grab and starts looking like a person who knew the rhythms of the building. The most famous suspect name is Francis Shackleton, brother of Ernest Shackleton, a figure with access, social reach, and a shadow of controversy around him in later retellings. The official story frames him as a prime suspect in popular theory, while also noting he had an alibi of being out of the country. Another recurring theory links Shackleton with Captain Richard Howard Gorges. You can tell this story carefully by treating it as what it is, a theory that persists because the lock was not forced and because the theft smells like access. And then there is the uncomfortable layer that always clings to old establishment scandals. Some accounts suggest fear of a wider scandal may have distorted how hard certain leads were pursued. This is not proof, but it is part of why the story won't die. The investigation sprawled. Scotland Yard offered reward. People chased visions. Psychics produced graveyard leads. Arthur Conan Doyle offered assistance. The case became a spectacle because everyone wanted the ending to be clean. But when an investigation becomes theater, it creates its own fog. Every tip is a story. Every story is a distraction. And every distraction buys time for the only outcome that matters to the thief: the jewels being dismantled or moved beyond recovery. An official inquiry followed. Vickers was accused of carelessness. The narrative that survives is not simply that the jewels were taken, but that the custodian was made to carry the shame of an entire system. The parliamentary record captures that language directly. Negligence discussed plainly, rumors answered with denial, and the case hanging over the administration like a stain that won't lift. A missing treasure has only a few realistic endings: hidden and preserved, smuggled and sold, broken down and absorbed into other jewelry until it becomes impossible to prove origin. History Ireland argues the most likely practical outcome is that the jewels were broken up and dispersed. And the cruel truth is that the longer a case goes unsolved, the more valuable the mystery becomes. Even as the objects themselves become less recoverable, the story becomes the treasure. The Irish crown jewels heist endures because it hits three nerves at once: wealth, authority, and the terrifying idea that the safest room in the city was only as safe as a key in someone's pocket. The jewels were discovered missing on July 6, 1907. They have never been recovered. And every theory, inside job, prank, politics, scandal, or simple greed, still has to answer the same locked question. How do you steal from a fortress without breaking the lock?